Just as I guessed. Only when hearing Nan Nan confess everything did Xiao Yan let out a long breath of relief. Yuanzi's wisdom and methods far surpassed those of the leader of the extraterritorial realm and the lord of the central human realm. This guy had been lurking in the shadows, constantly using the two of them to eliminate heretics for his own benefit. In the end, when their task was completed, he had struck them down with thunderous force. It seemed that Yuanzi was the biggest winner among the three. Back when the Xiao clan was destroyed during the first heavenly battle, and during Yao Ji's pursuit, it seemed that all these events were somehow linked to Yuanzi. But what Xiao Yan couldn't understand was, how did Nan Nan know such precious and crucial information? She had always been dormant deep within Yuanzi's soul. Had it not been for certain energies calling her, she might never have appeared. This time, Xiao Yan's attitude toward Nan Nan underwent a complete change. Much of this information was left behind by Yuan Tian brother, and part of it was something I sensed while I resided in Yuanzi's sister's body. As she spoke, a small, delicate lotus leaf swirled in Nan Nan's hand. The moment it appeared, the entire world seemed to quieten, as if it were afraid of it. Although the truth had been revealed, the current crisis remained unresolved. The lost paradise, which was hailed as the last hope of the great thousand worlds, had long been secretly sabotaged by Yuanzi. Now, the lost paradise held no divine essence or opportunity. At best, it was merely an ancient manor passed down since primordial times, nothing more than decorative ruins. Now, how could they possibly fight Yuanzi? With three of Yuanzi's original forces fused together and coupled with the destruction within the lost paradise, he was already unshaken. It seemed everything was unfolding according to his plan. Is there really no hope left? Looking at the two figures beside her, who were lost in their own thoughts, Yuanzi asked sorrowfully, still unwilling to give up. If even the lost paradise couldn't help Xiao Yan break through to the level of Doshan and gain the divine power necessary to resist Yuanzi, then the great thousand worlds would surely fall into his hands, becoming a wasteland, a true hell on earth. This is the most central part of the lost paradise, the source of divine essence and divine source in this world. Now that it's been damaged by Yuanzi, I'm afraid even I cannot turn things around. Nan Nan shook her head, her voice heavy with unspoken sorrow. The energy from this lotus leaf. Seeing the sad expressions of the two women, Xiao Yan furrowed his brows slightly, then stared intently at the object in Nan Nan's hand. Not necessarily. Wouldn't you agree, Yuan Tian Doshin? Just as Nan Nan and Yuanzi were in despair, Xiao Yan's gaze pierced through the fire cauldron below, fixing on the lotus leaf in Nan Nan's hand, as if calling forth some vast divine power. Come out. As he spoke, the 10-layered divine palace inside Xiao Yan surged, instantly separating from his body and continuously flowing into the lotus leaf. In an instant, the entire void was stirred, and waves of ancient energy rippled out from Nan Nan's body, as though the combined power of Xiao Yan and the 4 spirit pearls was triggering some kind of transformation within the lotus leaf. Heh, it's been a long time since the lost paradise was this lively. As Xiao Yan's voice fell, the flames in the fire cauldron below trembled violently. A shadow that resembled Xiao Yan almost perfectly slowly emerged from the tiny lotus leaf. The moment the shadow appeared, the previously unstoppable flames in the cauldron seemed to recoil in fear, retreating swiftly and revealing the already flame-engulfed shape of the divine forging platform. Boom! The shadow gave a soft snort, its disdain almost tangible, like a supreme ruler looking down on ants. Yuan Tian brother. Nan Nan cried out, her eyes wide with excitement. Junior Xiao Yan. Junior Yuanzi. We meet you, Yuan Tian Doshan. Both of them bent slightly, respectfully greeting the shadow. I know the purpose of your visit, Yuan Tian said with a faint smile, extending a vast, illusory hand to gently stroke Nan Nan's forehead in a tender manner. Senior, the first holy flame is about to merge, and the great calamity will soon return to the great thousand. I dare ask, how can one enter the path of the battle god? Xiao Yan suppressed his intense excitement and spoke slowly, each word deliberate. For in front of him stood a being whose energy fluctuations, even after countless years, were far beyond what Xiao Yin could contend with. He knew that this was the power of the divine seat, the true supreme battle god, reigning over the heavens. To reach the Doshin stage, one must overcome the battle god tribulation. However, the conditions for the arrival of the battle god tribulation are extremely harsh. Yuan Tian spoke, his voice devoid of any emotional fluctuations. Even these simple words stirred a tremendous upheaval in Xiao Yan's mind. While the four divine realms might be easy for Xiao Yan to comprehend, how could one seek an artifact imbued with divinity? Currently, the holy flame on Xiao Yan's body and the flame god's cauldron. None of these held any trace of divinity. Ever since my battle with Xian Di in the divine war, both of us suffered heavy losses. However, the latter used the power of the sacred flame to forcefully reclaim the divinity from many sacred flames and divine artifacts. This inadvertently resulted in the tragic situation where no one could reach the Doshin level within the Great Thousand Worlds. Now, all the divine power in the present world is in the hands of Xian Di, with 3 parts of his primordial essence. As for the divine source, it has already been destroyed and cannot be found. A hint of helplessness appeared on Yuan Tian's face, clearly showing that even someone as powerful as he had no better solution. Is there really no other way? Xiao Yin shook his head. It seemed that all paths to challenge the Doshin level had been thoroughly shattered by Yuanzi. Now, the Great Thousand Calamity appeared to be a deadlock with no solution. Perhaps there is, but that answer, you will have to find on your own. As he spoke, Yuan Tian's gaze unexpectedly turned toward Nan Nan, as if there were some unspeakable secret. At the end of his words, Yuan Tian's voice became heavy with meaning. Just as he finished speaking, his entire body ignited with blazing light and dove straight toward the flame cauldron below. Countless cold flames scattered, disappearing in an instant. Soon, only Xiao Yin, the 3 of them, 2 soul coffins, and the empty, enormous divine forging platform remained in the core space. Beneath the divine forging platform, an endless black hole churned, with a scorching, divine flame slowly burning within. The power emanating from it could incinerate everything. The void within the golden tombstone was the heart of the entire paradise lost. 2 ancient, unmoving soul coffins stood quietly in the void. Below, the cold flames of the flame cauldron had receded, revealing a divine round forging platform that seemed like a stroke of divine genius. On this platform was a notch, and beneath it lay a world that seemed to be a true land of flames, vast and terrifying. Meanwhile, as Yuan Tian vanished, all the flames in the cauldron below disappeared, and those energies returned to Nan Nan's side. The mottled energy flickered, slowly shaping her new form. It seemed that Yuan Tian's final power was only to help reshape Nan Nan's physical body and extinguish the endless flames in the cauldron. Those flames are not the sacred flame. The entrance to the void hovered above the space, and Xiao Yin, after staring at the abyssal flames beneath the divine forging platform for a long time, spoke helplessly. Those flames were indeed powerful, but when compared to the sacred flame, they were worlds apart. Moreover, the divine forging platform could indeed forge divine artifacts, but without divinity or a master smith who had perfected his craft, everything would be in vain. Don't disturb her. Seeing Yunqi attempt to awaken Nan Nan, Xiao Yin stopped her. Nan Nan was now enveloped in a green light. Her body contracted into a small form. Her soul power slowly imprinted onto her body. This transformation clearly required time. If interrupted, the consequences could be unimaginable. The soul coffins no longer possess any spirituality. They are as ordinary as any mundane object. No signs of Doshin energy have been found elsewhere in Paradise Lost. Sighing, Xiao Yin and Yunqi began to walk around, using their strength and the guidance of the 4 spirit pearls to search the entire Paradise Lost. However, they found nothing that could help them reach their goal. It seemed that there were no more records of the divine here, let alone any artifacts that could help them reach the Doshin level. Once, Paradise Lost had contained divine-grade elixirs, divinity, and divine sources. Any one of these would have allowed Xiao Yin to break through to the Doshin level. But after their battle with the gods, both sides were heavily wounded. Yuan Tian fell, and the three primordial essences of heaven, earth, and man descended upon the Great Thousand. Yuanzi secretly used his divine powers to return to Paradise Lost, throwing the once sacred realm into chaos. From that point, Yuanzi became a shadow, hiding in the darkness. It seemed that everything had become a foregone conclusion. Since this place is useless now, we should leave. With those words, Xiao forced a faint smile, before enveloping Nan Nan in the immense power of the sacred flame. The three of them departed from the realm. The once hopeful divine paradise of the Great Thousand Worlds was, from start to finish, nothing but a joke. Actually, none of this is entirely your fault. During their departure, Yuanzi couldn't help but speak up as she looked at the silent Xiao. She naturally understood what it meant for Xiao and the Great Thousand Worlds not to step into the Doshan stage. Since Nan Nan had taken over her soul, their memories had begun to merge, and so Yuanzi knew everything about Paradise Lost. Xiao didn't respond to Yuanzi. The greater the power, the heavier the responsibility. As Nan Nan remained unconscious, an ancient memory unexpectedly surfaced in her mind. It was as though a voice had been calling her for a long time. Nan Nan, your birth is special. Perhaps from the moment you were born, it was destined that one day, you would encounter a human whom you'd willingly protect, even if it means sacrificing your life or soul for them. In the vision, Yuan Tian's tall and mighty figure gently held Nan Nan, speaking softly as if he had already foreseen this moment. I don't want that. I want to be with brother Yuan Tian forever. He. Hearing this, Nan Nan's bright eyes flickered, and with a mischievous smile, she whispered. But at that moment, within her eyes, a faint flame and a blue lotus briefly flickered, vanishing in an instant. After the three left the core of Paradise Lost, Nan Nan's complexion gradually turned rosy. Looking closer, one could see that her face and beauty were as delicate and enchanting as Yuanzi's, resembling a fairy standing gracefully, leaving one mesmerized, haunting their dreams. As the three departed from Paradise Lost, in the skies of the boundless fire domain, a dazzling golden light suddenly flashed, and an ancient, unyielding golden portal reappeared. Slowly opening, a terrifying, ancient aura began to pour out, as if some divine seat had descended into the world, causing an overwhelming presence. Boom! In an instant, a deafening sound echoed from the golden portal, like the wrath of a deity, shaking the heavens and attracting the attention of countless creatures across the Great Thousand Worlds. Among them, the Saint King, Xiao Tianming, Golden Dragon King, Qing Yuan, and other peak powerhouses were the first to emerge from the boundless fire domain. Suspended in the air, their eyes were filled with an urgent intensity, as if they were waiting to witness something. This fluctuation. However, the next moment, three figures flashed out from the golden portal. Upon sensing this, Qing Yuan and the others' expressions immediately changed. According to their senses, the aura of those emerging from Paradise Lost was even weaker than when they had entered. Could it be something had happened in Paradise Lost? Xiao hadn't stepped into the Doshan stage, and instead, he had been injured? Shiga, gather all the angelic holy power of the angel kingdom. Prepare for the divine war. Seeing the cold expressions on the faces of the Saint King and others, Qing Yuan smiled faintly. Then, her expression shifted, exuding an aura of solemnity and divine power. Yes, your majesty, Angel Queen. Shiga slowly stepped out from the boundless fire domain, and with a flap of his 11 angelic wings, he tore through the void and returned to the angel kingdom. He was the newly appointed archangel commander, and both his power and prestige commanded great respect. Let that boy have some peace. From here on, we may have to rely on ourselves. As Xiao and the others appeared, the expressions of the Saint King and others grew even more serious. However, they did not approach Xiao. Instead, a flurry of orders were given, and soon, leaders from various top forces across the Great Thousand Worlds began to rapidly converge. This was a catastrophe, an apocalypse. If they could not place their final hope in others, they would have no choice but to protect and defend their home, everything they cherished, with their own hands. Even if it cost them their lives, they would not hesitate. In the backyard of the matriarch's mansion in the Boundless Fire Domain, a wide plaza was filled with several women gathered around Xiao. They all stared at him, their expressions filled with concern, unsure of how to approach him or offer comfort. Xiao, what's going on? After a brief silence, Xun'er was the first to break it. Since Xiao and Yuanzi returned from Paradise Lost, they had brought back an unknown woman with them. What was most puzzling was that this woman had no detectable fluctuations of dou qi, yet the aura she exuded made everyone present feel a subtle pressure. Xiao stood in a corner with a grave expression, his gaze fixed on Nan Nan's changing body. Suddenly, his eyes shot upward, piercing through the endless void, staring at the evil rift that towered above Zhangqiong. The evil rift had now completely obscured the sun's light, and a dim, deathly aura enveloped the entire Great Thousand Worlds. It seemed as if time for the Great Thousand Worlds was running out. This was the space where the three origins of heaven, earth, and mankind converged, the very place where the first sacred flame resided. Once the enemy crossed into the realm of the Dou Shun, this world would be reduced to nothing but the suffering of all living things. Xiao knew that with the passage of time, the strength of that being had become unprecedentedly terrifying. Even though they hadn't fully stepped into that realm yet, the fluctuations emanating from the journey surpassed those of any quasi-deity. In the Great Thousand Worlds, countless beings felt their fear and despair grow in their minds. Faced with the overwhelming pressure of this supreme Dou Shun, they were as insignificant as ants, powerless to act. A deep sense of helplessness spread through their hearts and minds, leaving them without the will to fight. They could only look up at the Zhangqiong, awaiting the arrival of the apocalypse. Her identity is somewhat special. Keep an eye on her for me. I must go to this battle. After a long silence, as countless figures began to converge high above, Xiao finally spoke. This battle was unavoidable. It was for the sake of protection. If it's come to this, then we'll go with you. At worst, we die together. In the face of Xiao's resolute expression, the four women showed no hesitation, speaking almost instinctively, their heroic spirits shining brightly. Now that disaster was imminent, everyone in the Great Thousand Worlds had a responsibility. If they lost this battle, the entire world would cease to exist. Thus, they might as well give it their all. Yuanzi, I leave her to you. It was as though he was giving a final piece of advice. Xiao, with the four women, tore through the sky and swiftly headed toward the edge of the rift in the Zhangqiong. This battle would be the final one, and the hardest one. Sigh, girl, perhaps you're the only one unaware of these things. But how can I even speak of it? At this moment, Yuanzi, gazing at the unconscious Nan Nan, whispered helplessly. Nan Nan's origin was tied to the first divine artifact and the first sacred flame, but what exactly needed to be done, Yuanzi wasn't sure. Even if she knew the way, sacrificing a young girl for the safety of the Great Thousand Worlds would be an evil in itself. This decision, it seemed, would ultimately depend on Nan Nan. At that moment, within the matriarch's mansion, an ancient aura from the eternal flame realm suddenly filled the air. It seemed as though Xiao had intentionally left it behind to protect Nan Nan, as if his soul had received a profound guiding force, reminding him to protect her, almost as if they had made a pact. Meanwhile, Nan Nan was slowly awakening. As she did, memories long sealed and hidden truths began to surface deep within her soul. She gradually recalled that she was part of both the first sacred flame and the first divine artifact. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, above the pitch-black sky of the Boundless Fire Domain, nearly every high-ranking leader of the Great Thousand Worlds had gathered. They all raised their eyes toward the Supreme King and Xiao Tianming, the two half-step Doshan powerhouses. I've gathered everyone here today because I'm sure you all understand the gravity of the current situation. Soon, vast divine power from the rift began to spread through the sky. The Supreme King spoke slowly, his voice filled with an unwavering determination. Clearly, at this point, they had no choice but to give everything they had, or there would be no chance of survival. Do you know if Alliance leader Xiao succeeded? The crowd was conversing smoothly when suddenly, an offbeat voice broke the silence. Just barely. Everything in Paradise Lost has been completely destroyed by that being. The void twisted slightly, and Xiao Yan and the four women appeared. As soon as they arrived, he spoke, not bothering to conceal anything anymore. As Xiao Yan's words fell, the crowd could only shake their heads in helplessness, their eyes reflecting a deep sense of futility. Everyone, it's time. Let's strike with all the power of every living being in the Great Thousand Worlds. The fate of the Great Thousand Worlds rests on this one strike. Moments later, the clan mark on Xiao Tianming's forehead flared, and all his half-step Doshan power and reincarnation power surged, boiling like a tidal wave, ready to pour forth. Let me handle it. As he spoke, Xiao Yan's flame god's cauldron quietly emerged in his hands. It then floated in the air, continuously drawing in the vast power of countless beings, gathering a terrifying force capable of slaying gods. We'll gather all our power for you. At this moment, looking at Xiao Yan in his frenzied state, countless beings were moved to tears. Their blood surged within them, and across the vast expanse of the Great Thousand Worlds, on countless regions, a faint glow began to rise, like fireflies floating upwards. They surged into the flame god's cauldron, chasing the stars and moon. In the blink of an eye, the flame god's cauldron expanded dramatically, growing to a size of tens of thousands of feet. The immense power inside it flickered, resembling an extraordinary divine force capable of splitting the heavens and earth. This strike gathers the will of billions of beings from the Great Thousand Worlds. Xiao Yan soared into the air, veins bulging on his hand, his pupils filled with endless madness and bloodshot streaks. Then, under the gaze of countless beings, he leaped into the sky and slammed his palm down. The void twisted under the pressure, and a vast and overwhelming divine force, along with the flame god's cauldron, crashed into the evil rift. In the next instant, starlight flickered as waves of different energies rippled outwards, and the entire world seemed to shudder, giving off a sense of fragmentation and disarray. Countless people held their breath, their eyes locked on the rift. What would the result of this strike be? Destroy it. Faced with the seemingly inevitable victory of Yuanzi, Xiao Yan's expression grew serious. He unleashed all of his strength, not holding back in the slightest. When he struck, it was with his strongest killing blow. The dazzling flame god's cauldron, like a divine artifact capable of creating and destroying worlds, absorbed the power of countless beings. It transformed into an indomitable will of the Great Thousand Worlds, leaping into the evil rift and shooting toward the core of the Buddhist realm. The scorching and sacred flame god's cauldron now appeared extraordinarily radiant in Yuanzi's pitch-black pupils. However, even facing this world-destroying attack, Yuanzi, who stood within the altar, showed a cold, sinister smile. Boom! In an instant, this terrifying strike, carrying an aura of death, submerged the entire evil rift, leaving behind only a vast sea of brilliant flames. Even the Buddhist realm, located behind it, was completely engulfed, with all the evil forces around it obliterated by the fiery ocean. The holy breath, like a torrent, ruthlessly cleansed everything in the Buddhist realm. Even Yuanzi, who was at the altar with his 3-yuan fusion, could sense a deep unease. In that moment, countless beings across the Great Thousand Worlds wore a rare smile. Xiao Yan's overwhelming strike seemed to have dealt a severe blow to Yuanzi. If they could prevent Yuanzi's fusion, the Great Thousand Worlds might have a slim chance of survival. Numerous gazes pierced through the void, focusing on the Buddhist realm beyond the evil rift. At that moment, the Buddhist realm was enveloped in a blaze of sacred energy, transforming into a furnace-like world. Countless dark mist clouds were rapidly evaporated by the heat, yet 3 distinct energy clusters on the altar were even more radiant, as if they were completely unaffected by Xiao Yan's attack. You can't win. As the beings of the Great Thousand Worlds gave their all in this attack, Nan Nan, who had awoken from within the matriarch's mansion, shook her head gently. It seemed she already knew the outcome of the battle. Yuanzi, is this world, its good, evil, beauty, and ugliness, really worth you risking everything to protect? Perhaps it would be better to let that person destroy this world and create a new one only filled with beauty. Nan Nan stared thoughtfully at Yuanzi. Where there is light, there is darkness. This world is beautiful, so beautiful it cannot be described with words. To protect it, even if it costs us our lives, we will not hesitate. As Yuanzi spoke, Nan Nan seemed to sense some shift in Yuanzi's mind. She immediately confirmed some deep-rooted mission within her own soul. Boom! At the same moment, just as Xiao Yan's attack seemed poised for victory, dark, shadowy coffins suddenly appeared from the evil rift in the sky, at the point where the Flame God's cauldron had struck. The billions of beings gathered powers within the Flame God's cauldron seemed to be nothing more than a gentle breeze when they struck those evil coffins. The power disappeared without leaving a trace. It was as if the destructive force of the Flame God's cauldron was effortlessly absorbed by those coffins. In that instant, Xiao Yan's brows furrowed slightly. This attack had gathered the strength of the entire Great Thousand Worlds, and yet it caused no harm to Yuanzi. What was even stranger was the familiar energy emanating from those dark coffins. It was as if something that had been dead was slowly reviving. Impossible. At that moment, countless beings' minds went blank. Some raised their heads in disbelief, their gazes fixed on the shadowy coffins. With the appearance of those coffins, the originally dim sky was now covered by layers of dense blood-red clouds. The faint sunlight filtered through, casting an eerie and sinister light upon the entire world, creating a heavy sense of oppression that filled the heart. Bloodthirsty and malevolent energy surged from the coffins and the ends of the evil rift, enveloping every inch of space in the Great Thousand Worlds. The land trembled as though the birth of a monstrous being was imminent, heralding the collapse of the world itself. SSS. No matter how much you struggle, none of you can defeat me. My fusion still requires some time. Next, enjoy the grand spectacle I have prepared. The manic and arrogant voice of Yuanzi echoed throughout the Great Thousand, shaking the souls of every living being. In that moment, the space within the evil rift shifted drastically. Then, streams of milk-white energy cascaded down like waterfalls, all pouring into the coffins, from which a chilling aura slowly emerged, rising from within. Boom! Crack! The sky-shattering sounds echoed across the world as the mysterious coffins slowly opened. A doomsday scene, one that would be etched in the memories of all who witnessed it, gradually took over the eyes and souls of the beings in the Great Thousand. In an instant, as the coffin lids creaked open, familiar figures from the past began to emerge one after another. Is this the first-generation poison god? The first-generation demon god? Among the crowd, Little Fairy Doctor and Su Shuiying both wore expressions of disbelief. They gazed at the two figures, who stood like puppets in the sky above, their faces devoid of emotion, and whispered in awe. The Demon Realm's Poison God Palace and the creators of the Demon God Palace, both of these individuals had reached the peak of the 9th reincarnation stage long ago. Their mastery over demonic and toxic powers was unparalleled, making them some of the strongest in the world. No, this is impossible. The first-generation demon god and poison god, didn't they perish in ancient times? How could they reappear before us in this way? Golden Dragon King's expression grew grave as he spoke, his voice heavy with uncertainty. The demon god and poison god, masters of supreme demonic and poisonous powers, had never reached the half-step Doshin level, but their strength was legendary. If they were to strike, the entire world would be ravaged, for few could withstand their devastating attacks. That's not all. There are those few who stand above everything else, the 10-colored heaven-swallowing python, the king of beasts, the floral god, the moon god, and also Xiao Tianyuan Supreme and clan leader Xiao Yuan Tian. Before anyone could fully process the situation, Xiao Yan's voice, cold and like that of the Grim Reaper, echoed in the ears of countless powerful beings. Looking up, figures long lost to history began to slowly crawl out of the coffins. They had strange expressions, emotionless, as though reborn. However, the one thing they all shared was the terrifying murderous intent that filled their eyes. Ha ha ha. Do you all find my grand gift to your liking? The shadow of death completely enveloped the Great Thousand. At that moment, aside from the sound of the wind and rain, even the air seemed to freeze. This was Ren Yuanzi's ultimate power. You cannot defeat me. Ren Yuanzi's laughter slowly rose from the evil rift, and then his cold voice, like that of a death god, resonated through the Great Thousand, causing countless living beings to turn pale. Even their souls were filled with growing terror, amplifying with each passing second. Why have these supreme beings from the ancient era been reborn? At this moment, Yun and Kai Lin both felt a peculiar heat pulse at the center of their brows, clearly confused. However, looking at the floral god and the tin-colored heaven-swallowing python standing at the edge of the world, both women sensed a powerful wave that stirred them deeply. That wave was of the same origin. In other words, these ancient beings before them were not mere replicas. They were the true bodies of the ancient supreme beings, possessing the primordial power of their ancestors. This scene was beyond terrifying. Among the strong figures before them, aside from Yuan Tian and Yuan, most of the others were at the half-god level or at the peak of the 9th reincarnation stage. In a sense, the overall strength of Ren Yuanzi's forces now outclassed the entire Great Thousand. These beings are indeed the true ancient strong ones. Though they have been revived, they now lack any vitality. They seem more like puppets. The most significant thing, however, is that their power is no longer what it once was. A look of concern finally emerged in the Saint King's eyes. Clearly, the outcome of this event was far beyond what he had anticipated. At that moment, the fluctuation of the three sources united grew even stronger. A terrifying pressure, one that surpassed even the all heavens, spread throughout the world. Not to mention the legendary supreme beings who stood like guardians at the edge of the evil rift. In an instant, countless beings from the Great Thousand looked up in shock, some unable to believe their eyes. Could this be the end of the Great Thousand? Beneath the boundless fire domain, within the eternal flame realm, Yuanqi's beautiful eyes tightened, as if witnessing an unforgettable apocalyptic scene, leaving her momentarily stunned, unable to regain her composure. The tin-colored heaven-swallowing python, king of beasts, the floral god, the moon god. These were all peak experts of the demigod level, not to mention the two unparalleled powerhouses from the Xiao clan. It seemed that in this moment, all hope for the Great Thousand Worlds had been completely crushed. Destruction, it seemed, was only a matter of time. The three Yuanzi of heaven, earth, and man are formed from the first holy flame. Xindi has ambitious plans, but what you don't know is that, within Paradise Lost, apart from divine great elixirs, divine essence, and divine source, there is a divine art that surpasses all others. It's called the Void Body. Though it doesn't have particularly earth-shattering offensive or defensive power, possessing it, in some sense, makes one invincible, for it allows one to ignore all restrictions of the rules, freely traversing time and space without being detected by anyone. These resurrected beings, likely, are the result of his malevolent battle techniques derived from the strongest divine art. Nan Nan shook her head, seemingly surprised that Ren Yuanzi, so clever, could have mastered this seemingly simple and useless divine art so perfectly. Nan Nan, your very birth was a result of the powers of the first divine artifact and the first holy flame. I beg of you, save this devastated world. I am willing to offer my body and soul, so that you may live on forever. In the next moment, Yuanqi suddenly knelt, tears welling in her beautiful eyes, her voice choking with emotion, as if this was the only thing she could do at that moment. I know, but why didn't he take me with him? He should know that now, in this end time, only I can save this world. Looking at Yuanqi's heart-wrenching posture, Nan Nan, however, shook her head, a faint smile suddenly appearing in her eyes. Nan Nan, we made a promise. I will always protect you. In her memories, familiar scenes continued to surface from the depths of her soul, like images sealed for millennia, gradually awakening all of Nan Nan's memories. Yuan Tian brother, you are so stubborn. With that, Nan Nan's body slowly ascended, a green energy and milky white flames swirling in her beautiful eyes. She appeared both enchanting and divine. There's no time left. In the sky, countless powerful figures felt uneasy, and then the angelic soul behind Qing Yuan trembled slightly, a sense of unrest emanating from deep within her soul. Gather all the holy flames. I want to try something. At this moment, the Saint King seemed to have made up his mind, speaking resolutely. It's useless. Without divine essence in the holy flame, even if we gather 35 holy flames, we still won't be able to shake him. Xiao Yin shook his head. But we can't just stand by and watch the world fall apart. The Saint King sighed, as if aging several years in an instant. Divine Palace. Divine Power. Demon. Flame Mantra. Whum. 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 At the moment when everyone felt helpless, Xiao Yan's body slowly rose, all of his power seemingly igniting in an instant. A brilliant explosion of colors, like fireworks, surged into the evil rift. This strike, carrying the unyielding power of heaven and earth, immediately bypassed the intercepting guardians and struck directly at the divine figure in the evil rift altar. Boom! A massive sound reverberated, shaking the soul, emanating without warning from the evil rift. Then, waves of earth-shattering destructive energy transformed into dense, fiery clouds, constantly pouring out from the evil rift. Ha ha ha! I have ascended to the battle god. You ants. Just as a glimmer of hope rose in everyone's hearts, a thunderous, maniacal laugh echoed down from the sky. Then, the gazes of countless powerful figures from generations past conveyed respect, all turning their eyes toward the horizon. In the sky above, a timeless, glorious figure stepped onto the thick clouds, as if he were the ruler of this world. It's still not enough. At that moment, Xiao Yan's body slowly fell from the sky, as if he had exhausted all his life force, descending lifelessly. Xiao Yan brother. In an instant, the four matriarchs moved, quickly approaching Xiao Yan's body. But just as they were about to reach him, a wave of heat and warmth appeared first, enveloping Xiao Yan's body. In that fleeting moment, the four women felt their hearts stir, as if the light in front of them was the divine presence of an invincible deity. Cough, cough. You found me after all. Xiao Yan was still Xiao Yan, but from the moment he emerged from Paradise Lost, Yuan Tian's memories began flooding into Xiao Yan's mind, continuously pouring in through his divine palace. In Paradise Lost, Yuan Tian had once made a vow with Nan Nan, a vow to protect, an eternal vow of guardianship.